The closing event of FOIA Fest 2016 will be talking about the College of DuPage scandal and how information about the fraud to taxpayers that was going on there came to light. The Edgar County watchdogs have been reporting on this story from the beginning and have uncovered much wrongdoing. Listen as this College of DuPage scandal is picked apart layer by layer. I'm Megan Fox reporting from FOIA Fest 2016 in Chicago, Illinois.
I'm Jody Cohen, also a reporter with the Chicago Tribune.
And last year, we worked on an investigation together at the College of DuPage, which if you're not familiar with the College of DuPage, it's the biggest community college in Illinois, and it's the second largest provider of higher education in Illinois after U of I. So just really quick, you want to talk about what our story found?
Sure. So this started, our investigation started with a tip, and it was a tip that was pretty isolated about the radio station. They have a public radio station there, and it was about how the radio station engineer had been using a private side company of his to steal from the college in various ways, ordering products for the college that were never delivered from his company. It was not really a real company. So we started looking into this radio station, and we pretty quickly realized that there was a much bigger story to tell about the College of DuPage and really the system-wide ways that it was not using funds properly, mismanagement, all kinds of issues. And one of the first ways we realized that there was really something fishy going on there was through FOIA. And
so Jody filed a FOIA in October of 2014 asking for some basic spending information from the college, like the type of FOIA that you file and you know you're not going to get any problem because it's so basic. The money invoices, just really, start dates, employment dates.
What kinds of invoices? Like, what were you looking at?
We were looking for invoices from the radio engineers private company. But it's such a basic FOIA request that we never expected a problem.
And also like his employment records, which are also very, basic records that you can FOIA, like start date, end date, salary over the years, his resignation letter, hire letter, resume, things like that.
So we, at the time, thought it was going to be kind of a one-and-done story at the college, and then Jody got the FOIA response back, and they denied our request. And we were both a little stunned because we thought it was so basic that we contacted, our lawyers got involved, and they contacted the school. And through various means, we found out that COD had gone to court secretly, had gone to the grand jury, and asked a grand jury to, as you can see, somewhere in here.
There was a grand jury that was investigating this engineer, this guy, John Blanda, but they had been investigating
for months and months.
For like over a year.
Right, so...
they hadn't been investigating, but this grand jury had been...
They said, they had a hearing about our FOIA request in front of a judge, a sealed court proceeding in front of a judge, where the judge agreed to deny us basic records. But here's the thing, nobody ever told us they were going in front of a judge to deny us basic records. So when we found out about this court order, our attorneys went into court almost immediately and got this overturned, and we went in front of a different judge, and that judge was incredulous that a third party would go in on a motion to squash our FOIA request. But more than that, this was a giant flag to us that something was wrong at the College of DuPage. If they would go that far to hide something so basic, we wanted to know what else they were hiding.
Was it the state's attorney, or who actually took it to the grand jury?
Only a state's attorney can take it to the grand jury. So it was the college with help from the from the prosecutors, the DuPage County prosecutors that
I
went
guess that's
in.
my question.
Yeah.
Why did the prosecutors believe what the FOIA request?
That's a good question, right? Because they had been sitting on this and they had done nothing with this. They knew about this stuff. They knew about it going back years and they'd done nothing about it. And
Some
when,
people wondered if they were ever going to do anything about it.
right. And once we started nosing around, we could prove, if they had turned over these documents in a timely fashion, we could have proved their case for them. When they did turn them over, we did prove their case.
We wrote the story about this guy, and he was indicted 2 weeks later.
So he was still working at the college?
No, he had been fired.
Yeah, or he resigned.
He resigned. Yeah.
Was his position union, just out of curiosity? Is that because I work at COD and they would make a practice of if someone was doing sexually harassing behavior, racially harassing behavior, they just wouldn't rehire them if it was a teacher. And I was told it was because they were union and they didn't want to wrestle with the union, so they just wouldn't rehire them, especially if they were adjunct. This actually was something that happened to me when I taught there.
Yeah, I don't know if he was, we've never seen anything that said he was union.
Yeah.
But as we said, when we got a hold of this court order, we knew there were more places to look. And so the first places we looked, we wrote a story saying, here's what COD doesn't want you to know. Here's what DuPage prosecutors don't want you to know. And it was like the floodgates opened. And
People wanted to talk. It's like they've been waiting for
somebody to pay
care.
attention.
Yeah.
So one of the first places we looked is Waterleaf, which is
Waterleaf. So a few years prior, so there was the president of the College of DuPage was this man named Robert Bruder. He was fired last year, but when he became president, one of the things he wanted to do was open a fine dining restaurant. This had been a pattern of his at various community colleges where he had worked, and he had had varying success at Harper College. He wanted to do this since in Palatine, and he did not succeed. So when he gets to the College of DuPage, which has a great culinary and hospitality program, he said, perfect place for a fancy restaurant. He wanted it to be so fancy and so upscale it would get a Michelin star. This was very important to him. And he loved fine wine. So he decides that he's going to open this fancy restaurant, and also it would help the culinary students, is what he said. Except we were able to show that the culinary students had very little access to this. It was a professionally run restaurant that...
Right. Like one of the things you can see we asked for was documents showing that students worked at the restaurant, and there were no documents showing that students worked at the restaurant because the students didn't work at the restaurant.
Right. So I was getting ahead of myself. So this was this FOIA we filed soon after that radio station story ran. We started getting information about the restaurant, and yes, we asked for many things, as you can see. But the allegation was that we had heard that we were investigating was that this restaurant was really his private dining room for him and the senior managers and the trustees, and they would go and have these very lavish dinners, all charged to taxpayers.
When you filed that FOIA, were you using your background interviews with people who had called you to say, look at these specific things, or did you go visit the restaurant and say, oh, this looks weird?
Good
And
question.
now
Both. So we went, well, I had very little experience ever. I don't think I'd ever been to the College of DuPage. Maybe one time. Stacy lives in DuPage and has been to the College of DuPage. But we did both. We definitely had help crafting that FOIA, which is really important so that you're asking for the right information and you're not going on a fishing expedition, which sometimes you have to do, but if you have people who can help you. And then we also did go, prior to filing that, I believe, we went for lunch there. And it was really funny because we're having lunch and Robert Bruder walks in to have lunch, and he doesn't know who we are yet, but he walks in and he just takes his coat off and walks right into the coat room and hangs it up himself like it was his.
It was his place. It was
and he was there with the trustee, so it was really.
Did you get pictures?
Unfortunately, no.
We should have. And the next night, he got a $785,000 severance package.
The next.
So one of the things we got as part of the FOIA request was, you can see up here, we asked for all the house tabs, the actual receipts from the restaurant, and we ended up getting hundreds of, right, probably? And they looked like this. They just look like your typical restaurant receipt, but because the restaurant was owned by the college, anything the restaurant did was a public record. So you could get every single person's bill who went there. And so we knew from people who knew about the situation that they were house accounts. So we asked for all the house accounts. And then when we got them, we
asked for all the house accounts.
Yeah.
That'll be important later.
All the house accounts. When we got them, we detected pretty quickly that anything that was house account 10 was the president's house. That was his personal house account. And you can see he had $2,300 board dinners, $3,200. What?
How did you know it was his?
Well, you can't tell on these, but he would sign it. He would sign them.
Someone would sign it for him.
Right, and so then house account 30 was the senior management team, and we could tell that too by who was signing them. So we found a house account 10, we found a house account 30, so a natural question arises, where is house account 20?
But before we get to that, we have these hundreds of pages of receipts, right? And what we want is to be able to total them all up, right? So we took those and we created a spreadsheet where it just, so that we could, alcohol, food, how many guests, and anyway, so we could have something where we could quickly have good data points that ended up in the story. But
right. So I mean, so we could add up saying that $100,000, that the president alone spent $100,000 during his 3 years that it was open. But they also provided like really great detail. Like you can't really see it on the screen, but like you can see the bottles of wine that they're drinking, the filet mignon that they're eating, the canapes they're having, I mean, yeah, they live really large. And another thing we found out that just kind of became just a fun joke for us is that he loved honey bourbon, like that really like novelty Jack Daniel's honey bourbon, and you see it again and again in his receipts. And like sometimes like honey bourbon would just be sent to his office. We found that a couple times.
Verbally, in writing, I mean, there are no other house accounts. Then on Monday, April 13th, we had a meeting with some foundation.
Our story had already run at this point.
With some executives from the College of DuPage Foundation, which is their foundation where they raise money for the college. And I said, but we were always suspicious. So I said at the end of this interview, which was about another topic, about contracts, I said, so do you have a house account at the Waterleaf? And she kind of paused, and she says no, and moves on to something else. And then we said,
no, she said, no, we do not have.
We do not have a house account. And then she was talking about something else. We went back. As the interview was wrapping up, he said, well, did you ever have a house account at the Waterleaf? Because by then the house accounts had been closed. And she said, yes. And then
we said, was it house account 20?
Was it house account 20, yes.
And their lawyer was actually in the room when this happened. And we immediately turned to the lawyer and said, you're in violation of state FOIA law. We asked for those house accounts. You did not turn them over. So we left that meeting, and Jody almost immediately sent this email to their lawyer.
And to our lawyers.
Yeah, our lawyers are CC'd on the bottom. Which, if you can CC your lawyer, that I think that sometimes does help. Maybe not so much with Rahm Emanuel's administration, but other government agencies.
Did they think that they were not subject to FOIA because they were the foundation?
They did not use that argument.
They did not use that argument.
When it came to these receipts. Because the problem is this restaurant is a campus restaurant. So these receipts were generated by the college.
It's an outside document. It's not necessarily a foundation document.
Even if it's a college document. This is a college restaurant.
So if I went there at 8, you could theoretically they can look at my receipt, theoretically.
I
you
think
can
I
find
could. They
it.
redact your
They
name.
would redact your name, but we
Yeah.
could see what you ate.
Now, I don't know that they would keep your receipt. I mean, these were college records, right?
But just to
Maybe-
show that it
maybe
doesn't
they
matter
do.
if you're a private or whatever, because
Right.
it's the college making the argument.
Yeah.
Right.
But they would redact if you were a person.
If you're a private person, they would redact your signature.
Yeah.
So what you're saying is just like any restaurant that would be downtown, you know, as a restaurant business, you keep your receipts for whatever year, however they do it.
Mm-hmm.
But in this case, because it's a strange situation where the college actually own the restaurant,
Correct.
whatever the restaurant's doing that the restaurant does business-wise, while you had access to that,
Right. We got the restaurant's books.
Wine inventory. We could see all the bottles of wine they had.
We did a lot of, we're not as versed as Monica, so we did a lot of Googling of wine and what the wines were and how much they cost. Right, we got their books, we got their financial books, we were able to see that they had lost nearly $2 million in 3 years.
and apart from the scandal, like if someone is just interested in how a restaurant runs or, you know,
Yes.
how it operates,
Yeah.
they could FOIA this and they'd have a case study in how a restaurant runs.
Yes, you could see how much they're spending each week purchasing seafood and, you know, how much they're losing. And yeah, you definitely could do a case study on restaurants.
The same with their radio station, if you want to see how the radio station worked.
So those house accounts, those were being paid then by college funds?
Yeah.
Yes.
Or donor funds.
So after we
So
sent,
House Accounts 1A, those were foundation funds that were paying for that. But still, those were college, these receipts were
right,
college.
scholarship money
funded
was
scholarship.
going. So we sent this email on a Monday night. On Friday, they dumped hundreds of receipts on us, thinking that we would.
The weekend.
It was the weekend. We wouldn't do anything with them, and we sort of took them to prove them wrong a little bit, and wrote a front page story.
Lost
and
our weekend.
lost our weekend. But they're going to give us comp time for it sometime. We're going to get it back eventually. So we wrote a story, and one of the main parts of the story was the fact that they weren't transparent about it, and actually gets in the lead the fact that, you know, they previously had undisclosed this. And I think, you know, when you're dealing with transparency, or you're dealing with documents and people aren't being transparent, I think transparency is as much as part of the story as the spending, because, you know, you need to tell people this is what they don't want you to know.
Did you turn that around for Saturday or for Sunday?
For Monday.
For Monday.
For Monday. So you just worked all through the weekend looking for everything?
We did. We stayed till 1 on Friday night, just entering, because we had to enter all the receipts.
Right. And then we came on Sunday to write it, I believe.
Yeah.
It's funny because they go from one session to another.
I'm not really sure that works, because I think it becomes 2 stories for the government agencies, you know, but they don't seem to care. Okay.
We should say, like, because this is about FOIA, that over the course of the year, we filed more than 4 dozen FOIA requests for various things with the college. So
Under Illinois law, do you file those individually? So are they considered a frequent requester now, or
I don't think media
College of
be
DuPage,
frequent. I'm sorry.
or is it the newspaper? I guess that's my point. Is it you individually, or is it the Tribune?
Well, it was the two of
Us
us.
individually, media reporters cannot be just considered
Okay.
frequent
They're
requesters
not.
under Illinois law.
And they changed the verbiage on that too. In December of last year, it became voluminous requester instead of recurrent. So it's fancier now, it's voluminous. But media cannot be considered voluminous.
Yeah, so that was to our benefit, and we often filed FOIAs with both our names on them. We became friends. We'll get to this in a little bit. We became friendly, not friends. We became friendly. We had a good relationship with the FOIA officer at COD, who was a little hand-tied and couldn't give us everything we thought we deserved, but she would be willing to talk to either one of us about the other one's FOIA request. So sometimes very early on, had both our names on it, so we both could talk to the school about it, but then it just became common knowledge that we both were doing it, and they would just talk to us about it. So one of my favorite things to FOIA are subpoenas. I think people don't do it enough. Any subpoena received by a government agency in the state of Illinois is a public record. And the ruling opinion on that is Better Government Association versus Blagojevich. And basically what it says is even though grand juries operate in secret and prosecutors can't necessarily tell you what's going on in their grand jury room, that the person who receives a subpoena can talk about receiving that subpoena. And because a regular average person can talk about receiving a subpoena, a state or any kind of government agency has to then it can become a public record. Because the average person has the ability to talk about it, a state agency has the obligation to talk about it. So this is 4th District Appellate Court in Illinois. Please use it. If you're gonna subpoena FOIAs, I would include language that says subpoenas from all federal or state agencies, and please include state, or administrative bodies, because there are some, like the Department of Housing and Urban Development can issue subpoenas, Homeland Security can issue subpoenas, like what are called administrative subpoenas. So please make sure you include administrative bodies. If you're subpoenaing, the IRS can issue subpoenas, so stuff like that.
So you FOIA the College of DuPage and then they turn over subpoenas on behalf of individuals who work for them, or only?
Well, the subpoenas are to the college.
Oh, to the college.
To the college. And in fact, the day that we were there learning about House Account 20, we were sitting outside the president's office, and these 2 guys walked by in like really short hair, dark suits, white shirts, carrying an envelope, and we're like,
That's their getting subpoenaed.
right? You work in Chicago long enough as a reporter, you know what a G-man looks like, and we're like, oh my God. It was pretty funny. So the next day, we filed a FOIA to see if they had received any subpoenas. And what we did do is, if you just do a blanket subpoena, you're going to get a lot of workman's comp claims back. So you want to ask for maybe like grand jury subpoenas. You might know specific, because you're going to get people's divorces. There's subpoenas involving employment records with that. Also, ask for the face sheet when you're FOIAing subpoenas. That gives you, I'll show you in a minute what that looks like, and that gives you information as to who the prosecutor in the case is and who the investigating agent is. Then just include language that says, not be limited to, should include those served on individual employees or agency officials, so like a trustee who's not technically an employee of the school. Sorry, my email keeps beeping. You want to make sure if they are served individually that they still turn over the FOIA.
Did they ever say that they won't give you an employee because it's a part of their employee record and that's...
Well, there were no individuals FOIA'd. Blagojevich was subpoenaed, right? Back when he was, and he turned it over because he was subpoenaed as Governor Rod Blagojevich. He wasn't, subpoenaed as Rod from Ravenswood. It was in his official capacity that he was under investigation, so therefore his subpoena was a public record. So anything that's
But even like a
issued-
child support or something like that? I mean, if there's an employee who is delinquent on child support of the village or whatever,
Right.
and you ask for all the subpoenas and they say, can they say like, well, we won't give you Bob's because this is, or we won't give you this one because it's public?
I don't think so. I think my argument, I'm not a lawyer. My argument would be the subpoena itself reveals no personal information. It's the responsive documents to that subpoena that they might say is private, but the fact that the subpoena exists is not, I don't believe, especially in like a custody case, that's an open case, right? You could go into court, look at the court file and see if there's a subpoena for that. Okay, so this is the subpoena, the federal subpoena that COD received. And it basically became a roadmap. A lot of the stuff we had already written, they were subpoenaing a lot of the stuff we had already written about. They talk about house accounts, they talk about spending, they talk about contracts. Some of this language actually is verbatim from our FOIAs. They just went into the college's FOIA logs and took them verbatim. So, but you can see what they're looking at, and it basically provided us like a list of things to check to make sure we've already FOIA'd, an idea of where they're going, although with this it was hard because it was so sweeping. No. This is the face sheet. So the face sheet comes, it's the cover letter. And the legal term is face sheet, but here's the really good information it provides. It provides Special Agent Matt Blankenship from the FBI. Well, now I know he's the one in charge of the investigation. And so then I know that we can reach out to Special Agent Blankenship, or I can go to people in my office who have better FBI sources and say, hey, do you know Blankenship? Erica Silla, right? I think so. Yeah. And now I know that she's a prosecutor on the case. So, I have a good idea of who she is and what she does. And if I don't, people in my newsroom do. So that's why it's always important to get the face sheet.
Sure. So a lot of the documents we asked for were emails, and these were emails between the president and trustees and various other people. So just some good things to remember to include when you're FOIAing emails is to ask for the attachments, because sometimes you'll just get the email, you'll see there was an attachment, but you don't have the attachment, which isn't very helpful. And then it's always good to make sure that you include if the individual's email that you're looking for, if they were copied on it. So that way, if it was like forwarded to someone else, that might have been interesting, but they were just copied on it and forwarded it. You'll want to make sure you see those too. This is a really good point. If you put in a request and they say it's unduly burdensome because it's going to be 1,500 emails, something like that, ask for an email log that lists all of the responsive emails so you can narrow the request. So the email log would say to, from, and then the subject line. And it's somewhat of a guessing game then which ones you ask for from that. But you'll get 1,500, this log of 1,500 emails, and from that you'll narrow it down to.
The Edgar County Watchdogs have done a lot of stuff on this. Were they a hindrance or a help to you along the way?
I'd say neither.
They were neither. I mean, they're, those guys know the FOIA laws, right? I mean, they know the FOIA laws.
I've actually been to, I think it was a BGA event where they spoke in Collinsville. So,
okay.
I was curious if it helped you, hurt you, nothing.
Just think they did their thing and we did our thing, and I don't think it really.
Did they overlap much, or were they on a different path?
We wrote about some of the same issues.
They approach their storytelling from a different way.
They get a bad rap for just,
Very opinionated.
yeah. They get a bad rap for that, but a lot of times it seems like they're covering legitimate issues. Maybe, like I said, they may take it a little to the extreme in the reporting, but.
Those guys know FOIA law, the open meetings law, Robert's Rules of Order. I mean, they know their stuff.
How come they are not able to, Montino, they went to Montino because I guess there was they were looking at the audits that the audit department, did, and they found Montino's audit because he was going to become a new general auditor. Mm-hmm. But now they're saying they can't get into the information any longer about what's happening with his expenses. It's more or less small potatoes in terms of being a pizza parlor and gas station and, out there in Bureau County, where he had his district when he was a representative and a majority deputy for Madigan. And that's how he got his job. It's a 10-year appointed job, where other states have it as an elected 4-year job, but we have 10-year appointed auditor general, and but now there's the Edgar people, or the county people are saying that they can't get into any more information because it's the Board of Elections.
Yeah,
What's that all about?
we haven't been involved in that, and we don't. I know that Edgar County Watchdogs care about that story. We haven't been following. We haven't been reporting on it, so I don't want to like comment.
Oh, you don't know anything about it?
No, we haven't reported on that. We haven't done anything.
Did you?
I don't want to speak to anybody else.
I went off in the weeds, I just knew they'd been working on this.
Yeah.
Considerably as well.
Yeah.
Can I throw in just one thing on the subpoena that's
Sure.
real quick? So I'm sure you all know, but maybe for the.
Well, you know what, can I have one more thing about that? I do think the competition helps. So when you say, do they help or they hurt? I think it makes you, write faster and get the information
Well, I
out.
guess that was kind of my question.
In that-
Did you kind of work with them or
Definitely
in
didn't work
com-
with them.
We did not work with them, but
I knew that, look, the FOIA log is public at COD. Anyone can see what you're FOIAing. So, and they were very, they were watching that FOIA log, of course. So they knew when we were going to be getting documents, and they have a different style. They're going to get documents and throw them up on their site, with not necessarily with the analysis or the extra reporting. So we had, when we got those documents, like those,
the House
water
Account 20.
ones,
That's why we work all weekend
we
because
couldn't sit on those documents because we knew that they would also get the documents, and as soon as they go up, anyone can see them, which is good, fine, right? But we're
competitive.
journalists and we're competitive, and we want to be first. So yes, maybe it helped us work faster.
yes.
Did you run into any of the same Open Meetings Act issues that they did? Because I've read their coverage of different OMA issues that College of DuPage was constantly trying to stonewall and not allow comments. Did you go to the board meetings too?
Yeah, and we wrote stories raising the issue, and that is why they voted twice on that severance package, because they clearly violated OMA on the first severance package.
Well, why didn't the Office of Auditor General discover this? I mean, it's so blatant.
They don't audit the community colleges.
They don't audit the community colleges. Who does that? Who is supposed to regulate them? Who's supposed to oversee them?
No, the General Assembly had to pass a resolution to allow the audit. But they police themselves.
Right. They police themselves. Each community college polices itself.
Correct.
There's no general.
There's a new
Regulation?
Senate bill. It has to spring from this story. The trustee training bill.
Yes, ethics training.
Yeah. So Cullerton and Connolly are involved. They are DuPage senators. So I'm sure that there's a whole ripple effect coming out of the story.
I think there are like 6 or 7 laws. And the one passed last year that requires,
A year's severance.
yeah,
Oh.
It limits
the amount of severance that a college president can get.
Oh, yeah.
Did Edgar County ever scoop you on anything like you had in the works, but they got to it first?
There was the one thing, what was it? I'd have to go look. There was something, it was like by 2 hours.
SLEA. Remember they threw the SLEA? We both got a letter about the police academy. The tips about the wrongdoing in the police academy. We worked all weekend because we knew that they were also they were CC'd. Worked all weekend to get it done, and they just threw the documents online. No story, they just put the documents online, and so yeah, they got us up first.
FOIA Fest is really one of the best events in the Chicago area for any citizen sleuth who wants to know what's going on in their local government. I'm Megan Fox, reporting with Storytime Digital Media in Chicago.